I don't know what news you're watching, but from where I sit, Arsenal are European champions. This is the Arsenal Vision post-match podcast. My name's Elliot Smith, block me on Twitter, Yankee Gunner. We're going to talk about the Southampton game. I think there's some interesting things in there. We're going to talk about the final table. We're going to talk about the summer, of course. So there's a lot of things we'll bounce around and talk about, but we are going to talk about Arsenal women being crowned champions of Europe. We won't do a deep dive into that. Over on Patreon, Clive and Tim will do One Club, which is, our women's club coverage over there. And obviously Tim will have a lot of stuff on the Arsenal Women's Arscast that he does over on the Arsblog site. So there'll be lots of coverage of that. We did an instant reaction for it if you want to catch that. It is silly season. It's transfer window season, and that means we are going to be starting Transfer Daily in June over on Patreon. If you want to join us for that, you'll get the latest updates and tidbits and things, and that can keep you off of the social media sites, which are a cesspit, frankly. But I'm there, which might explain why they're a cesspit. I don't know. You be the judge. In any event, we're just so happy to have you here, and I want to say a heartfelt thank you for joining us throughout this season, for sharing the highs and the lows. I think there are more highs than people maybe are in the mood to hear about right now, but there were certainly lows. I think if I had to summarize the season for myself, I'd say it's a season that felt, at least domestically, like it just never got started, right? Season starts, red cards, injuries. Marino isn't fit coming out of the transfer window. And then there's the Rice sending off and the Trossard sending off in what would have been, I think, a win at the Etihad. And then, you lose Odegaard, and then you lose Saka and Gabby and Martinelli and Kai, and the season just never was able to get up ahead of steam. But enjoyed some of the big wins, enjoyed the Champions League campaign. It's not the campaign we wanted overall, but I loved having the chance to share it with Tim and Clive and Paul and Scott and Phil and you listening, and we will continue to share the transfer window. I think it's going to be one of the silliest, craziest, maybe most fun and exciting, maybe most disappointing. We'll find out and live through that together. And I think a lot of people feel, myself included, that next season it would be nice to lift a trophy. And maybe what the women lifting a trophy reminded us is that at the absolute pinnacle of the game, the Premier League and the Champions League, when you lift those trophies, it feels different. It moves you in a powerful way, and we want to be moved that way by the men's team. So come join us on Patreon for the transfer coverage, or don't. Just stay with us here. We'll have good stuff all summer long. And part of the reason we have good stuff is because we have Clive. We have access to Clive. And we have access to him literally right now. Hello, Clive.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right. Bank Holiday Monday. Been to the gym. I'm not sure what anything's changing, but I enjoy myself.
If it makes you feel good, that's what's important.
I come back with more injuries than I walked in. And so, yeah, I'm on holiday in about 3-4 weeks. So I'm on Baywatch.
Trying to get those cheekbones back?
Exactly.
Good luck, mate. Good luck. Yeah, well, I do want to just quickly touch on the Women's Champions League final. Arsenal beat Barcelona. What a way to do it, by the way, going through Madrid, Lyon, and Barcelona. And Lyon and Barcelona, two of the most historic Women's Champions League competitors of all time. And this Barcelona team was a juggernaut. They scored almost 200 goals in all competitions this season. They were heavy favorites. And Arsenal defied the odds, and you were at the Emirates for it. Tim will obviously hear from. He was there, and he got a beautiful birthday present, by the way, a very special happy birthday to Tim today. But I'm just curious what the experience was like watching with people at the Emirates, and your quick summary of the women winning the Champions League.
Yeah, I went to the Lyon game and the Real Madrid game. I'm an Emirates casual, right? So Emirates is on. I just go there with the family and have a bit of fun. I'm not travelling away or anything like that. I'm not where Tim is yet. So Emirates casual, boy, and go and enjoy myself there in a nice, relaxed way. But the games were excellent. And leading into, I thought, you know what? I want to do something for this final. And I got a ticket to go to the Emirates with my wife and daughter. And I thought, you know what? I've got a good feeling about this, and I don't know what it is. And I just went there, and it was great. They opened up club level, I think, all different areas. So you had an area in the north, south, east, and west. Big screens laid out, drinks. Drinks was part of your ticket price, and there was crazy people everywhere, mate. Around 5,000 people. I sent Tim a note. 5,000 people in here, and I reckon 4,950 have been to the armory and bought new gear. I mean, everyone had the gear on, and it was just incredible. Really, excuse me, really nice atmosphere. Really, really lovely feeling about the whole day. And basically, the game started, and despite having a good feeling, I thought, hey, we started off quite well, got some early chances. And in my mind, you have a picture of the game, how it's going to go. I think we need to score first. That's key. We need to score first. I couldn't imagine us coming from behind and beating a team 2-1, 3-1, whatever it was. I thought we need to score first. When the early chances happened and they didn't go in, I thought, oh no, this is not working out. And then they took control and pushed us back, and I thought, oh no, this is not looking good. But the women have something that the men don't have, potentially, which is forwards on the bench that can come on and literally change the game. And they brought on 2 forwards in particular, in Beth Mead. This is the quality of Beth Mead. I know she had an injury, but she was the best player in the world 2-3 years ago. Simple as that. She should have won the Ballon d'Or for the women, came second, and we're able to bring her on. And Stina Blackstenius, who is the ultimate stretching behind striker, gets us up the pitch, and suddenly within 7 minutes of Stina coming on, we scored the winning goal. And unbelievable feeling, I sat down next to a couple of patrons, and they got excited. They jumped all over us and poured drinks all over us. and so the moment when the goal went in, we were mopping ourselves up, really. But that's just the nature of the environment. And you suddenly was watching it earlier, and it's dawning on you that we're going to win. And that feeling of winning, right? You sort of know when it's your time. I can't describe it. I couldn't tell you. I just had this feeling. You sort of know. And when you look at it, you think, I always have this saying, you win when you deserve to win. Right? And I'm looking at this game plan develop. I'm looking at how we adjusted to certain phases of the game. I'm thinking, crikey, we deserve to win this. And so it worked out. And it was, I got to say, it was really emotional. I stood there and I was in tears. I got no worries about saying it. And it was to see the people, a lot of people in that room who are really invested in the women's game, home and away, but also to see the people at the club. And what I would say is, Elliot, that in that women's team, there are a number of players that have been there 5, 6, 7, 8 years, a long time. And they've been trained together every day, all that period, invested their whole professional careers in the club. And they had this moment together of reaching the actual pinnacle of the game. And then, absolutely very emotional. I got to be honest with you. It was really emotional. And I asked myself a question, why was it that so emotional? I think some of the pent-up stuff we have in the men's game sort of came out a little bit.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
a reminder that winning's okay. The journey's great, but winning is okay. And I'm really, as we all hopeful, that renews some energy and some decision making on the men's side of things. Because imagine if the men ever win something big, mate, trust me, that's a week of work. Gotta be a week of work.
Yeah, I was moved by it. And look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a keen watcher of the women. I've dipped in and out throughout this season. I did watch the Madrid tie, the Lyon tie, and the final. It's such a huge accomplishment for the club, and we feel so tied to this club that we love, that when they accomplish something huge, you feel really special about it. And you're right, it does refocus that the goal of doing this is to lift these trophies. But I want to be clear, when I say these trophies, I mean the Premier League and the Champions League. That's the stature of where we want to be. Those are the things we want to be lifting. And that's not to say that lifting other trophies would not be a lot of fun, but it's not the goal. Someone posted a picture earlier today of Tottenham with the Europa League trophy. And, everybody's smiling. And someone said, I just really want this for Saka. And I said, I hope he never gets that. Yeah. That's the thing I never want to see him lift. And again, not to diminish trophy winning, but we know the things we want to win. And one thing I want to do this summer, by the way, I want to have someone on who is really intelligently and passionately committed to the idea that, sort of any trophy will do. We just need a trophy, the importance of trophy, the paramount need for trophies, and kind of debate in an intelligent, respectful way what we regard as success and failure. Because I was saying this to the Disco Boys earlier today, I have no problem with anybody saying that it is failure not to win a trophy. I slightly disagree, and I can defend why I disagree, but I have no problem with anyone saying that. Where I draw the line, though, is someone then saying, we're not very good. We're not good. If you want to regard not winning a trophy as failure, I can come around to that perspective on a lot of fronts. I would point you, by the way, to years when we did win trophies, Mikel's first FA Cup, Arsenal's final few FA Cups. I did not regard those seasons as successes and did not like those teams, but that's beside the point. But if you want to regard it as failure, I'm open to that perspective, even if I don't totally agree with it. What I'm not open to is the suggestion or characterization of our team as not being good. And so as we shift gears to the men, Clive, maybe just a quick, because we've got a lot of weeks to do some postseason reflection, but maybe just a quick bit on, what you make of the season as a whole and the need for this group to get somewhere and why we didn't get somewhere, and watching what the women did. Obviously, we want that. What's your overall analysis of where we find ourselves right now
on the men's side?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a tough one, right? Emotionally, I felt a struggle, and I tell you when it really dawned on me. And some people have found this year a struggle. Full stop. You know me, I hang in there, right? I hang in there as long as possible. You have to shoot me before a smile comes off my face, right? Yeah. So, but funny enough, the emotional side of the weekend on Saturday and seeing everyone so happy, and there's a few people I know that work with Tim and that do reporting on the game, and obviously Tim's effort and also Andrew's support of Tim to do that, has been quietly superb, right? And he will keep himself in the background to help facilitate Tim to do that, and I was so pleased for them who have invested so much time, and that happiness made me think about the men's side, and I was a bit done. I was done. I wasn't able to watch the game live this weekend because it was on TV, and I thought, you know what, I can understand some of the exhaustion and frustration that people have felt, and understanding how someone feels is one thing. It doesn't mean that I don't think there's a right or wrong in this. Frustrations and grief and whatever you want, that's personal. That's personal to you, and it has felt like a struggle this year. But I fought that feeling. I fought it because deep down I'm an Arsenal supporter, and hopefully you're hoping that the gods of football are going to suddenly turn around and we're not getting people sent off on the halfway line or by the corner flag, and we're able to play this game. But there was just a couple of injuries that really hurt. The big Gabby one, I was watching that one against Palace. You think, oh no, that can't be. And then you get to Dubai, and then you see the tweet come up saying Kai Havertz out for the season. You think, hold on, we're not even playing. Do you know what I mean? And that was the killer blow for me. And if that was even a 3-weeker, who knows? We might be in the Champions League final at the weekend. Simple as that. Yeah, good point. Just a normal hamstring strain, 21-day job, and we go into those games in a different way, right? So it hasn't felt fortunate, and it's maybe made some of our mistakes or decisions. They really haven't worked out for us, some of them, So it has felt a little bit tough this year, but also within that, Elliot, within all of that, bad luck, bad decisions, misfortune, injury, we found some real positives, and particularly in Ethan and Miles, we found two players into this squad that we were not thinking about in LA, for example. We were not thinking this was going to happen. Ethan's minutes. I read somewhere today he had made 37 appearances this season. Yeah, I mean, I can't. That's incredible if that's the case, right? So. And as for Miles, well, he's going to be starting for England the next couple of games, isn't he? He's literally been rested for internationals. So there we were watching a couple of young kids playing. End of the season, we've got one of them who's played over 30 times and scored 9 goals or so. And the other one is literally being rested for internationals.
Which, by the way, June international break following a season when there's no summer tournament. Great idea, guys. Really good. Yeah. Just what the players need. Yeah.
And if when they're done with that, they've got a Club World Cup, some of them. Yeah. So it's just
good luck.
Good luck with that one, right? So and so things can surprise you, but there haven't been enough surprises and enough good days, and it's just been too many average days, shall we say? But I will say this, these are first world problems. There are other teams that would love to have our average days, beating Real Madrid and getting Champions League semi-final, finishing second in the league.
Yep.
But we want something else, don't we? We want a bit more. We want a bit more.
Yeah, we do. And just as a context on the season, so obviously we finished quite a bit behind last season, 15 points back of last season, 34 goals conceded this season versus 29 last season. But the real difference shows up in what we did at the other end of the pitch, and I don't think there's anybody who isn't aware of this. 91 goals last season, just the 69 this season. And on XG, last season we had 76.1 XG. Not really quite the level we want. We'd like more than that, but this season just 59.9, good enough for 7th best attack on underlying metrics. That's not going to get it done. And look, the 10 men situations don't help. The injuries certainly don't help. As I've said, and will continue to say this summer, any analysis you do with this season, you're taking a guess. You're guessing a little bit. Some of it, I think you're on solid footing, but when you play without Bukayo Saka and Odegaard and Jesus and Kai Havertz and Martinelli, and you're guessing, right? We think, look, everybody who's sentient and watches Arsenal knows we need to get attackers in this summer. Nobody's at any disillusionment about that, and Mikel Arteta would agree with it as well. But the analysis of this season is just going to be really hard for all the reasons we've covered. What I think is interesting, you look at Liverpool, they finish on 84 points versus 82 last season. They have 86 goals scored this season versus 86 goals scored last season. They have 41 goals conceded this season versus 41 goals conceded last season. Plus 45 goal difference last season, plus 45 goal difference this season. Yeah. They finished 2 points better. And I know there are people that are going to say they would have pushed more if they needed. Look, like I said, don't know, can't tell you. What I know is they weren't pushed, and that's the shame. The shame is that they weren't pushed, and we don't know, what it would result in. But, they're going after Florian Wirtz, it seems like, and that is a statement of intent that they are not satisfied with where they are. Karakesh and what's his name? Frimpong, thank you. They're going for it. They don't want to rest on their laurels. And so whatever we think of ourselves and however good we think we are, and I happen to think we're quite good, there's work to be done to make sure that being quite good isn't the limit of our ambition. We want to win the Champions League and the Premier League, and there's work to do to get there. I want to get your take on the final table, though, Clive, and it was a final day that I think, as always, emphasized the people we want front and center, and that is the referees. The PGMOL had one more in them. I got one more in me, and that was the early whistle of Villa's goal at Old Trafford when Morgan Rogers takes the ball from Bayendier and slots. And I don't think Bayendier has it under his control. I think the ref blew the whistle early. It reminds me of the goal that was taken away from us against Liverpool, the Kai Havertz goal, and this one's more clear for me, though. It is not under the control of the keeper. He should not blow the whistle, and that is a £100 million decision because I think Villa would have gone on to win that game, and it would be Newcastle who'd be out of the Champions League, and we might be talking about whether Isak might come now. Instead, it's Newcastle in the Champions League and Villa not. So any thoughts on that moment in the final table and the clubs that made it to the Champions League and the ones that didn't?
Yeah, I sometimes feel we've been quite unlucky this season, but I don't think there's a team more unlucky than Aston Villa, actually. Because they're sitting there watching Son strut around North London with that Europa League trophy after losing 21 or 22 games Spurs have lost.
22 games, yeah. 4-1 at home to Brighton. Well done.
Yeah, 22 games they lost this season. And Aston Villa, and I'll give them credit, they have been to the Champions League quarterfinals. They beat Bayern Munich. They played against PSG and did pretty well, and they didn't quite have enough courage, shall we say, in the away game to really take advantage in the home game. And so, but they've had a season, similar to ours with the schedule and the type of schedule they've had, the Wednesday, Saturday, and it's tough doing that. And they're sitting there thinking today that Spurs are in the Champions League and we're not. And that doesn't feel right to me, if I'm honest with you. Forget my feelings about Spurs. They've shortcutted their way again, which is classic Spurs. Spurs made 35 million from the Europa League this season, and they won it. Right? We made 92 million euros last year from the Champions League. That's the difference in finances. The Aston Villa, and they're already running at 96, 97% wages to revenue. That's a huge moment. A huge moment for their club. They made changes in January, no doubt, to make sure they could run 2 competitions in a row, and it nearly worked out. Rashford done his hamstring late. They moved Duran on. They brought in Asensio, and they were cooking, weren't they? They were cooking on the way. Monty done his work, and we're thinking, well, look at what Villa have done. Why couldn't we done something similar? And it hasn't quite worked out for them. They lost a bit of form. The goalkeeper lost his mind towards the end of the season. Morgan Rogers slowed down a little bit. It's hard, this thing. It's really hard to keep maintaining it. They managed to upset Ollie Watkins at a critical point of the season. Didn't know what, Emery wasn't sure what to do there. And he ended up upsetting people, and they've ended up overthinking it, classic Emery style, and not producing the form, regardless of the referee decision, which was obviously incorrect. They haven't produced a form in the running and managed to lose to Manchester United on their ground, which no one does, right? So I feel for them, if I'm honest with you. But you get what you deserve sometimes. Too much fear in the tactical strategy, overthinking. Got a really good side with really good investment, really good talent. And I think they may have overstretched themselves. And it'd be interesting to watch what happens to Aston Villa this summer. Because they may have to make some moves they don't want to make.
Enormous wages to turnover ratio, almost 100%.
Yeah.
They went out at Old Trafford needing to win and managed one shot versus worth 0.03 expected goals in the first half. I mean, even if I feel they were screwed, which they were, it is not what you need to do under those circumstances. So they didn't get it done. It is Chelsea that are in the Champions League. It is Newcastle that are in the Champions League. And frankly, I think there's a big conversation coming about the reshaping of what the big six or big seven of the Premier League is. And where Manchester United go from here. It'll be really interesting. It's worth pointing out, you mentioned Spurs lose whatever it is 22 times this season in the Premier League. They finish on 38 points. However you feel about the Arsenal season, you saw Arsenal lose 4 games in the Premier League this season. You saw Arsenal lose 7 times in 52 games between the Premier League and the Champions League. We're a team that doesn't lose games. It's just we've become very hard to beat. The draws are the problem. The throwing away leads are the problem. And when you are more effective in attack, you turn your dominance into wins more often. And that is the job. That's what we're going to have to do this summer. And we will certainly be talking a lot about the summer. Clive, I don't think it's worth doing too much transfer stuff yet. I think we'll scout Jamie Gittins on the scouting video. We'll scout maybe Ollie Watkins just because we haven't had a look at him and he's worth getting a look at.
Yeah.
I think Xabi Alonso just today said Rodrigo is an excellent player, he's a fantastic player, he's a Real Madrid player. We need him. So that might put an end to that, or maybe that's just part of the whole negotiation. We'll see. Do you believe that Arsenal will be efficient and quick in the market this summer? Mikel called for it in his pre-match comments to the Southampton game, that we not only need to act, but we need to act quickly and decisively, that the players need to be in earlier this summer. Is it not just about adding the quality, but adding it early? Is that really a priority in your eyes?
Yeah, I think from first day of pre-season, we should have our squad together.
Yep.
Simple as that. There's no excuses. There's no Copa America this year, is there? I don't believe.
Nope.
There's no
summer tournaments. Yeah.
There's no summer tournaments, just a World Club Cup thing, which could have an impact, but hopefully not. So yeah, we need to move quickly. And the level that we're at now, I don't think there will be many names that we don't know. Right? So it just becomes a debate on what we want to do and what is the best value, what brings the right level, and what allows us to build our squad for now and for the future. And I do believe that the future is important, and so I have my own preferences. And I went to the gym just now and I stripped it back in my mind and said, right, stop messing about. Who do you like? Do you know what I mean? Who do you like? Who do you think is going to scare people? And I've sort of arrived at my 2 or 3, shall we say. Wide men, I think it's a combination of wide men, centre forward. I've arrived there where I was and going my gut feeling on things. And you mentioned Rodrigo there earlier. Fine player. In January, I thought I might be a sneaky one. We tried to get out of there. But when I saw him play against Miles, I did not think any of those 2 games we should sign this player. So remember that feeling. I watched him with my own eyes. I didn't think we should sign this player and just didn't think it. So why am I getting excited now? Do you see what I mean? And sometimes you have to go back to your core feeling about a player. It doesn't mean you're right. It just means remember how you felt when you saw that player. Remember, because it's important. When I watched Ollie Watkins, I'll be honest with you. When I watch Isaac, I'm thinking, bloody hell, they're good. They're really good. When I watched Gyökeres, I thought, he's good. I felt his presence. Good player. So very fortunate. I've seen these players live, so I can have this feeling, about them. We saw Gyökeres, didn't we? And we all knew he was there, didn't we? We all knew he was there. And so I'm not saying it's the answer, but go back to your core thing about if we do get a chance to see them, how they were against our teams in particular, or if you see them elsewhere, you won't be far wrong, from those discussions. So yeah, I got my thoughts, Elliot, but let's see what happens, right? It can all change in an Ornstein tweet.
Yeah, it can all change literally in a moment, and we are going to get pulled from pillar to post this summer. Make no mistake, because everybody knows what we need, so we're going to get linked to all of those kinds of players. I do think, and this is good advice for every transfer window, not just this one, you can't let another club doing something drive you crazy. You can't let the fact that United might sign Mbeumo or Cunha, or the fact that Wirtz is going to Liverpool, make you mad at Arsenal. You want to be mad at Arsenal, be my guest, but be mad because the window closes and we didn't do our business, or the preseason starts and we haven't done the business efficiently. But other clubs are going to make signings, and in some instances, they may make them before us. Let's not forget, we're probably going to announce Zubimendi when that June window opens, would be my guess. And that's a player Liverpool wanted. That's a player other clubs wanted. Now, whether you think he's the right guy or not is a different issue. I have my own concerns, I'll confess, but I'm letting the more intelligent people guide me towards being very encouraged by that. But the point is, don't just ho-hum, okay, we got Zubimendi. That's an important piece that other clubs wanted that we're getting, and we're getting done early. You have to keep things a little bit in perspective. But yeah, the Wirtz signing, Clive, it's not done, but I do think he might wind up there. Any quick thoughts on that? Because that is sort of in the Rice category of a statement signing that we are pushing to be the best at everything. It's not actually a very typical FSG signing, if you ask me, in terms of really going big for the top talent that's out there, and what you think of the player and the show of ambition that they have with that, and just how that reminds us the level really has to continue to be raised. You cannot sit still. Yeah,
good player, Elliot. I'm not an expert on him, so when I watch him for Germany, and I'm normally looking at Kai Havertz. But the player in that front three, shall we say, that stands out to me the most is Musiala, right? So if you ask me, with my eyes and what I like, Musiala is for me is better than Wirtz. Do I see Wirtz in the Liverpool team? Not this current Liverpool team, but Slot has taken on Klopp's team and made that work and maintained the same level, as you highlighted earlier on. He's maintained. A couple of players have had extraordinary seasons, particularly Salah and Van Dijk, and he's allowed them to maintain their levels from last year. Last year, they were a fairly distant third, right? So this year, those same levels allowed them to win by 12 points, right? So Wirtz, I think, is okay, but I'm not sitting there crying about it. Seriously, I'm not. You can record this and come back and bite me later when he sticks it in the top corner against us, when I have to say, you know what, maybe I didn't read him correctly. When Kvaratskhelia went in January, I wasn't sure about him. I soon changed my mind once I saw him with my own eyes. I thought, what a good player you are. And PSG wrapped him up months in advance, And
by the way, I think that's the role Wirtz is going to have, play off the left or sometimes false nine, but I think that's what he's going to do for Liverpool.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he does, right? So Frimpong, another a smallish, lightish, sprinty player that's quite sharp, not very much an attacking right-sided player. At the numbers, makes sense, right? Get him in, so we can see how he goes. They got Conor Bradley there on that right-hand side, so it allows them time to settle. Yeah, I think it's good. They're trying to show something different. If he plays off the left, I think he'd be quite nice off the left with an attacking fullback outside him. And if they go for Kirkes, very sprinty in those areas, and have him in the half space there, like an Eze-style left 10, if you know what I mean. Sitting on that right-hand side, right foot shots could be interesting. Very intelligent. So yeah, I like the fact that they're trying to do something different there. But for me, I'm not shaken by it. I think it's important that we remember what we have and we add to it. I think that's the key thing. If we add attacking talent to our base, we're going to be very hard to stop and very hard to beat. The lack of goals have cost us more than we realise. They cost us the ability to rotate. They cost us injuries. They made games 90-minute games when they need to be 70-minute games. We move things around. That has an impact, you know, it really does. And so we need to focus on our ability to score and how we have different people affecting that back line. I know it is important, Elliot. I think that goal differential, you can't ignore it, right? You can't ignore it. And it's also about attackers, but it's also about our attacking intent. You know, how aggressive and direct we need to be. There needs to be a change in emphasis, you know. Rely on things that are burned into our DNA and how we recover the ball, how we press, how we work back, how we recover internally into zone 14 and may really block that centre. We do all this stuff without even thinking about it. But when we go to attack, do we attack with the same level of drilled in effectiveness? Or do we rely on certain people? And I think the over-reliance on Odegaard and Saka has come home to roost. I think it has. Saka broke down, Odegaard broke down. They've come back in different levels of fitness. But we had 2 years of them two just killing everybody, right? And you know what? We've been stopped. They've been stopped. And that over-reliance is clear now, you know, and when we get a bit more balance in our attack, a bit more emphasis in attacking, then I think we're going to be a really hard team to stop.
Yeah. And as far as Liverpool goes for me, I think Wirtz is a phenomenal player and he's going to make them better. I think Kirkish and Frimpong are good signings for them. I think I'd be most scared if they got a really good six, because as well as Gravenberch did in that role, I think midfield they still feel a little light to me, and that's why I'm glad we're getting Zubimendi, frankly. But if they got like an Adam Wharton or something, I'd be nervous, candidly. But here's the funny thing about Liverpool, for example. They signed basically no one last summer. No one. They signed Chiesa, who essentially didn't play, and Mamardashvili, who they loaned out. That was their signings for last summer, and they won the league. This summer, they're going to go nuts, and they might have the best summer ever. And yet, if Salah and Van Dijk fall away next season, they won't win anything. So it just goes to show you that as much as signings matter, there are other factors. I think for Liverpool, if you told me that Van Dijk and Salah were going to fall off the cliff next season, I don't think there's any signing they make that keeps them a title winner. Whereas last summer, they signed no one, and they won a title off the strength, as you pointed out, Clive, of their performances. So I'm cool with what they do. I'm more worried about what we do, and I just think it is a reminder that judge your club not by the business other clubs do. Judge your club by whether your club does what it needs to do. And there's a huge burden on the club to get it right. Mikel has spoken about it in the last few days. Speaking doesn't get it done, but he was sitting next to Josh Kroenke at that Southampton game, and I am sure that there were moments where he pointed and said, "See this guy Raheem Sterling running around out there like a headless chicken? That's what you gave me last summer, mate. That's not good enough." So, you know,
club decision. You know how it works. It's a club decision how we got there,
but it wasn't good enough.
It wasn't good enough. But I always go back. I'm very honest, and when that signing was made, I was hopeful.
Yeah,
I thought,
he was 29.
Yeah,
he was 29. You know, he could have given us something.
A player I've always admired. I was really, really hopeful that we get the last hurrah, shall we say, right? And but he hasn't done it. And that's not. But it was indicative of where we were, and we weren't focused. And Paul said something once I thought was very astute. He sort of said, with the Edu leaving, when you're at that level, you've left months before. For him to leave when he did in the season meant his head was half out the door, right? And I'm just saying to you, when you're leaving your job, maybe you're not at your sharpest in your old job when you think about a new one, a new career change. You're not quite at your sharpest. I'm not blaming him. It's a club. Most of his decisions are made by committee. But I don't think we, as a club, was at our sharpest towards the end of that window with our decision-making. We don't know, and I will say this out loud, we don't know enough about the regulation type of things, the financial side of things. We don't know what's happening in the future. The executives live in the future, right? They don't live in the now. They think 2-3 years down the road. But no one can tell me those decisions towards the end of that window look crisp and look together and look aligned. They didn't. And potentially we missed a window of opportunity. And you know the biggest window, Elliot? Forget the league. We may not have had enough of the league anyway because of the injuries. But I do feel strongly there was a window opening for the Champions League.
Yeah.
They don't open very often.
We've been in the semifinal 3 times ever. Of course there was a window. Yeah.
There was a window there. We didn't have enough. And then I think back to those decisions, particularly those loan decisions. I think, you know what? Yeah, I understand the fiscal discipline you might want to hold in January to make sure you do your work in the summer, and I'm to be proven right or wrong. If you don't do our work, I'm going to be even more upset about January and last summer. But if we had some loan room to wiggle in January, I think we may have done something. And that would have allowed maybe a stronger, more offensive push in the Champions League, because we were really close, very close to beating the team which I think is going to win it at the weekend. I think we're really close, and it's a bit frustrating, a bit frustrating, that window. They don't open all the time, they really don't.
I think that's 100% right. With the injuries we had, I don't think we could have won the Premier League. But when you're in the Champions League semifinal, of course you can win it. And we just couldn't find the goals, despite excellent play. And we didn't have the players to power us up from the bench.
Yeah.
So, January is a misstep. And look, we have to talk about the Southampton game because I think it deserves it. There's some interesting things. Ethan starting is an interesting thing. Tierney scoring. Some of the things we saw in the game are very much worth discussing, just maybe even from a wider context. As a last point about January, the one thing I will say that I find a little bit disingenuous is people who have laid that at the feet of Jason Ado. He's leaving the club now. I mean, you get handed the keys to a transfer window at a giant club, having been an assistant with no real authority, and now you're expected to navigate. Suddenly, Jesus is injured and we have no strikers, and go find us a last-minute thing. You're the director of football at Arsenal Football Club. Now, good luck, when the club wasn't planning to appoint you to be the director of football. So they're unlikely to give you the funds based on your decision-making unless there's joined-up decision-making across the organization. You're in a role you may not be ready for. I mean, the fact that he's left the club, I think, is just a reminder that that was not a sustainable position for him to be in. So I regard that as an organizational failure, if you want to call it a failure, an organizational misstep, rather than that individual. And I thought some of the critique of him individually was a little bit silly. But, it is what it is. He's leaving the club, and Berta is now the man who has that authority, who is going to be backed, presumably, by the club, and we'll see what he does. That's where we're at.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Ato had been mentored through by Edu, and Edu, his main man, his boss, moved on, and he gave it a shot. And you know what? To be fair to Jason Ato, he has acted on behalf of the club. He has done what the club have asked him to do. He's been involved in the Zubimendi deal. He's been involved in some of the other deals that are no doubt going to come this summer. It doesn't just happen, and so he has done the right thing, and he's obviously doing the right thing by his career. It'll be interesting to see where he goes. Maybe he's had a taste and say, I can do this. He shouldn't be tarnished by the fact that Arsenal had a sideways step this year, and that's the truth. We have some of that organisationally, because it happens in life. Your talent gets headhunted. I remember sitting on the stage last year and I said, we need to be making sure that we are future-proofing our talent, because when you finish like we have done and made the money that we have made and increased our squad value, people are going to come for your good people. It's as simple as that, right? So they're not going to sit there and let's look at that and say, no, we don't want any of those guys. We headhunt people all the time to get into our clubs who are doing well for their clubs. And so, it's cost us a little bit this year, potentially. And I'm doing it 2+2. But it ain't got to cost us forever. And if we made some crazy moves in January, it would cost us a lot more than what it should do. It feels a bit painful right now, but we can recover really quickly if we show the discipline which we have done. But now we have to act, right? And if we act correctly, I think we'll all be happy.
Yeah, let's get into the Southampton game, and we'll spend some time on that. But before we do, let's spend some time telling you about brands, because if we don't, your life will be noticeably, manifestly less fulfilled. I just don't think there's any other way to say that. I think we can all agree on that. And one of them that is going to change your life is NordVPN. NordVPN is the VPN that allows you to watch stuff you couldn't otherwise watch from whatever region you want to pretend you are in. So when someone says, you got to see this video, and you click on it and it says you can't watch in your location, now you can. You can also sign up for streaming services in other locations. If you are listening to this in the UK right now, there should be no such thing as a 3 p.m. blackout, because you can switch locations and sign up for services that are less expensive than what you currently pay and watch every game, every single game. Clive, I'm talking to you. So the moral of the story is you have the ability to browse from the location you want, to see the stuff you want to see, and sometimes to save money by signing up for services for less than if you were signing up for them in your home location. And it has threat protection. And as people who are on dodgy streams from time to time, you need that. So grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/ArsenalVision to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 additional months on top. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. NordVPN.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now. And if you want our promo codes, there's a link on our website, arsenalvisionpodcast.com, where you can see all the promo codes that we use for all our top brands that we tell you about. Manscaped. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra is available in a white-hot special edition colorway, now available in the UK, Europe, and Australia, not in the US, probably because of hashtag tariffs, but, this is not a geopolitics or macroeconomics podcast, so trade policy, you're going to have to go somewhere else to get that. But you don't have to go somewhere else to get the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra in the white-hot special edition if you're in the UK, Europe, and Australia. It is the same great Lawnmower 5.0, just in a different colorway, but it has the foil blade, so it goes completely smooth. It works in the shower, long battery life, skin-safe technology for, to help you avoid the usual redness or irritation that comes with lower quality trimmers. And I have to tell you, I shave my body hair. Do you? Then get a tool that's designed to do it. If you don't need this. Maybe you do need their beard hedger. Maybe you do need the face trimmer. But I can tell you, the Lawnmower is the best purpose-built trimmer for shaving that part of your body. And if you do it, you need it. You do it in the shower. You can go completely smooth. It's got all of the best technology. So get the White Hot Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra with 15% off with the code ArsenalVision at manscaped.com. That's the White Hot Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, 15% off with code ArsenalVision at manscaped.com. Do it now. And finally, Shopify is the e-commerce site where you can start a business where you don't have to focus on being an e-commerce expert. Established in 2025 has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Well, Shopify lets that be the deal for you this year. Look, I have built e-commerce websites, and what I can tell you is Shopify was the best for this simple reason. It made my website look extremely professional. It made it very easy for the people that wanted to buy the product to go, to see what was there, to choose to check out, to go through the checkout process. It takes care of things like taxes and shipping for you. It handles all the complexities of an e-commerce business. So all you have to do is know what to say about your product and what pictures to use. It will even put you on the, TikTok shop and Instagram shop and Facebook shop and all those places you need to be to show up for where your customers are. So just focus on your business and let Shopify focus on the e-commerce. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/ArsenalVision, all lowercase, to start selling with Shopify today. Shopify.com/ArsenalVision. Do it now, good. Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
Not it. The lineup for the Southampton game was, let's just say, unique and interesting. Kieran Tierney played. Raheem Sterling played. There was no Martin Odegaard in the starting lineup. There was no Bukayo Saka in the starting lineup. It was an interesting one, to say the least. Kieran Tierney scored, which was fun. Ethan Nwaneri got to play the right 8. That's fun. And I think the place I want to start with this is probably the single most important thing that we can take away from this group, which is Ethan Nwaneri playing right 8. I think he is one of the big teenage talents in world football. I do think at this stage of his development, he looks a bit early in his career to play in that midfield role. And look, he's only 18, so the development can be exponential. He can be a totally different player in 2 months than he is even today. This is the time of your career where you really take big leaps, not tiny little steps. But I'm curious what you think about that, him getting the chance to play that role, and when we've seen him there, what you think of his game evolving to be that position. Because when he plays right wing to me, Clive, he just gets it on that left foot and he can devastate you. And he's an incredible dribbler, 1v1, and I think that comes very easily to him. I think the midfield role is a little bit more complex. So what do you think about that? Because I think the Ethan part of this game is the part that maybe is the most important and interesting for the future for us.
Yes, I didn't see the whole game, so I could put a hand up there, but I did see like a half-hour highlight show, and it's quite clear when he has the ball at his feet, the ball is not too far away from his foot. His ability to manipulate the ball is incredible, And it's a unique talent to him. He can really see that ball clearly. And so at this stage of his career, you could be right, Elliot, but in our minds, we have this Odegaard role, and he just gets on the ball, and he's had years of doing it, right? So he's 25. And he knows how to be where the space is so the ball arrives at him and the players look for him. They're not looking for Ethan the same way, right? So, my my sort of analogy I used before, my NBA analogy, I see Martin Odegaard as a point guard, and I see Ethan as a shooting guard. And that's how I see it. And by the way, I think we'd all like to see more shooting from that position. Right? So there's if you can combine.
Well, the irony is Odegaard did it and won us the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we want to see more shooting because that player gets a lot of the ball to shoot. Right? So and so for me, it's all about balance, Elliot, right? So at the moment we haven't had a centre forward since I don't know how long, right? So if you've got a centre forward that runs in behind, you can play Ethan off the right wing. No problem at all. Right? Because he wants it to feet, he wants to manipulate, and he wants to slide it through to runners. If you have centre forwards that run, you can see he can play anywhere on that right side. It's not a problem. It's all about the balance of people around him. But if you've got runners, he can find them. But if you've got runners who to run to distract, then he can create shooting angles. Then he becomes a really good player. At 18, it's about getting him time on the pitch, rounding off his game, seeing what he does during dead periods, right? Sometimes with young players, they watch. They watch the game go around them, and then they think, okay, the ball comes to my feet, now I'm backing the game. When you're a more experienced player, you find ways to stay connected and present in the game. And that would be my message to him. Stay present in the game, because the more touches you have, you are incredible. You know, eventually the game will bend towards you because you'll be so good that the players won't stop feeding you the ball. Right? And that's what he needs to. Sometimes it's not just him, it's about how the other players look after him, protect him, make sure they give him the ball in the areas that he can do things with it. Yeah? So we can't imprint, cut and paste what Odegaard does onto this kid. And the same for Saka. He's in the A-class part of the pitch. Right? You know, with the guys on the big money, right? He's there. But what he's done is incredible. Absolutely incredible. We just need to have some context around that.
It just reminds me, like when I watch these Max Dowman highlights that have been doing the rounds, and there's been a lot of talk even from Mikel that he's going to be with us on tour this summer and that he could have a role in the squad next season. But when you see a player that age, literally in every highlight, just carry the ball from back to front past everybody and then slot it, you realize like you're not going to be able to do that at senior football, right? There's going to be men on that pitch that can stop you. And learning that sometimes the fastest way to move the ball at the pitch or get into the positions you want is to give it to someone else and then get it back. Does Ethan still have to learn a little bit of how to give it a little sooner, how to trust that it'll come back to him a little quicker? Because I still see a player that wants to and often can beat men off the dribble. But, you know, the tempo with which that ball moves sometimes feels like it could be a little quicker, a little earlier.
Yeah, I sort of like don't want to discourage the carrying aspect of things. You know, I think it's really good. We have become very formulaic and quite pass heavy. You know, so sometimes when I watch Arsenal at the Emirates area, I can almost hear the foot hitting the ball, boom, 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 but no one carrying or running, moving. I know we've been short-handed this year, so you're passing to Mourinho, to Rice, do you know what I mean? Out to Calafiori, out to... These are strong players, but they need the guys that offer the incision, you know, and to make them have their role in the team, you know. So I don't want to discourage it. And you know, I watched Ethan's videos and I watch him play, and I'm thinking, yeah, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. People have worked out to keep you off your left foot, so you're going to have to now do a little step over, go to the right a few times to open up time for your left. That's all to come. That was the same for Saka, wasn't it? He always used to go left, and he got stopped. He started going right and putting the roof of the net. Now no one knows what to do. Right? He goes right, left, didn't know what to do. It just takes time. It just takes time. When I watch Max play, people watch him for a few minutes on watching an England game, and they say, oh, he holds on to the ball too long. Oh, mate, just get on with it, son. Keep carrying that ball. Honestly, do not hold your creativity back. Keep carrying it. It's not about being the best 15-year-old player in the world, which he is. We want to be the best 18, 19, 20-year-old at Arsenal Football Club in the first team. And if that means he carries the ball 50 yards in a game 5 times and sticks it into the top corner, absolutely fine. Forget the rest of your teammates because they're not on your level. It's as simple as that. They're not on your level. When you get to Arsenal in first team, they will be on your level, and you will be moving that ball because you have to. Do you see what I mean? And because that's the environment that you're in. And so, yeah, we should be encouragers for young players. Encourage individualism, encourage that spontaneity. Don't worry about it. You know, when a player can't beat somebody, and we've got one of those going back to Chelsea, by the way, when they can't beat somebody, then you have a problem. That's the problems you don't want, right?
That's the other thing I wanted to touch on quickly, and that's the Raheem Sterling of this game. And look, I don't have to say nice things about Raheem Sterling. He's not an Arsenal player anymore. He had a short sojourn at Arsenal. I have huge admiration for his career, huge admiration. He's a player that, in spite of myself, I liked, despite where he played. But this is as diabolical a season from a player as you will see. And I think he's actually, through his performances and his level, heaped more pressure on the club and the manager in this respect. I don't think it was outrageous to think last summer, you know what? The attacker we really want isn't here for us this summer. Let's temporarily fill a hole in the squad. Let's go get a player with immense Premier League experience at 29 who probably still has something to give. No one will ever forget his "you're going to see the best of me" announcement video, and think he can give us something. And if he gives us something, then next summer when that player we really want is out there, we really can do the right deal. Because let's not forget, Liverpool, City, none of them found attackers they wanted last summer. It wasn't a good market for it. And loaning a 29-year-old Sterling, I have to admit, I thought there might be something left in this player. He's coming from a catastrophically bad Chelsea team that's dysfunctional. He's only 29. If he gives us something, this is a really savvy move. He gave us, let's be clear, nothing. And that has made that move look worse. And I understand why, because it's not the move we wanted. But I thought this was the perfect send-off for the player because it was a performance that was essentially a microcosm of just who he's been at Arsenal, which is a player that unfortunately is done. He's just totally, totally done. So, Clive, I don't have anything good to say about it other than I'm glad it's over.
Yeah, I think one of our learnings this season is going to be how we arrived at that decision. And was it a bit nostalgic? You know, I can afford to say, oh, I've always liked Sterling. I wonder if there's a bit more in him. I can afford to say that, sitting in my microphone, talking to people. But in the club, you can't afford to do that. You got to do this. This is real money, right? This is real people's careers. I believe, again, 2+2, if Reece Nelson was moving on, he made a late decision to go. I think he went down to Ipswich, and in the end, he went to Fulham, right? Last minute. They pivoted last minute. Loan signing, fill a gap. Needed to fill it, by the way, And that time, that looked sensible. And it hasn't worked out, you know. Reece Nelson, he played 12 times for Fulham this season. So if we'd have just did nothing, who knows what we'd have got. You know, yeah. Would he have stayed fit? But that's, you know, is Reece Nelson more an Arsenal player? Yeah, he's more disciplined. He knows what we're doing and he can offer things off the bench. If we'd have done nothing, it may have been like, okay. But Reece went to go and play every single week, got him to the Fulham team, did really, really well, smashed his hamstring to bits. I think he did 2 hamstrings. You know, so that's 2 years ago in his contract. He had a lot of injuries. It's a real shame, right? So that's one of those moments that we just mark down to experience, hopefully, and make sure that when we're making these decisions that they are correct. And by the way, we're going to make bad signings in the future. It's going to happen. This one is not too expensive. The Pepe one, however, now that is something which that's an issue for 2-3 years of your future when you invest over £100 million in a player. Now, I'll give an example of something that's I heard today. I just heard it online today, and when you make bad decisions or have players that are injury prone, it can really cost you. I heard something today that Manchester United have paid Luke Shaw over £58 million in wages. And he has missed nearly, over 6 seasons worth of games. That's the sort of thing that holds clubs back.
Well, then I think it's fair because it's not like we don't have a little of that in our house. Tomiyasu comes to mind. We gave him a new contract recently, despite knowing that he's had issues with fitness. And there are people that would say, however much you like Ricardo Calafiori's talent, and I like it a lot, signing a player with his track record historically of injury was a gamble at a position where we've just gambled quite a bit. We have another player who can't get fit. Calafiori doesn't make the bench in this game, I presume, again, injured, and it has been the case that whenever he's played, he's flashed precocious talent and then been unable to stay on the pitch. So I think we probably have to look at that one.
To update you on that one, Calafiori, Mikel said that they pushed him hard to get back for the end of season games, and he was training this week. They didn't feel comfortable. They said, you know what? You need a good pre-season. We're shutting you down. And that's a good decision. You know, they probably should have done the same thing with Saka as well. Just shut him down. You know, we really do need these players back and rested, you know, and healthy. And if you go through our defenders, Elliot, let's just go through them, right? We have Zinchenko about to leave, walking calf strain, right? Kieran Tierney, when we signed him, he was injured. You know, he couldn't play at the start of his career, right? So, again, we have to think about these. These are things that we can learn from. Okay, Big Gabby's got a hammy at the moment. He's been quite robust. Same for Saliba, quite robust. Ben White, operation, 4 to 5 months out. Tomiyasu, multiple operations, won't play for a year. You know, Urine Timber, 1 ACL, ankle operation. You know, we think we have all this covered, but if we didn't find that 18-year-old monster at left back, where would we be? And people are saying we had to move Thomas Partey to right back and he played centre half. Again, we're lucky that we can move people around to cover this thing. It would have been Declan Rice otherwise. We've had some horrific injuries in that back end of the pitch, and people like Jakob Kivior have been robust and played. Why? Because he probably hasn't had the multiple minutes that these guys have all had. You know? So we've got the names, but have we the bodies, have the robustness, have we the reliability to allow us to rotate? Because we burned Timber out completely. We burned Ben White out years previously when we all knew he was injured, and now it's cost him a season, basically. You know, so yeah, it's a tough game, this one, isn't it? Getting it right, getting that balance right. But if you see another defender coming in the summer, don't get upset because we need one.
Yeah, well, let me ask you, because Miles Lewis-Skelly's 18. He's had to play an awful lot of football at 18.
Yeah.
And I thought Zinchenko looked really good in this game. And Kieran Tierney, by the way, also excellent in this game. In fact, Tierney had a really good end of the first half. He had that ball he played Martinelli in over the top. That was brilliantly floated over the top. And Ramsdale saved 1v1 against Martinelli. I thought Martinelli, to be fair, did a nice job to pull it down. The finish could have been a little better, which maybe that's just a little bit of a microcosm of what we need. But Tierney goes over the top there. And then he does the overlap. White overlaps. I thought White had a good attacking game. And Tierney scores the goal. And, you know, I do look at Tierney and Zinchenko and just wonder, Zinchenko looked really good in this game. His technical level is very high. I know people are fed up with him, ready for him to go. He's made some mistakes that people will never forgive, and he will go, and his Arsenal career will end. But from a technical level and what he can add, I think there's a player in there, and I just wonder, Clive, were there opportunities to bring Tierney and or Zinchenko into the squad more, maybe even just in the league, if not the Champions League, and use what was available to Mikel? Or is that just, look, you played one of the worst teams in the history of the Premier League on the final day. Stop overthinking it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. We played, there's all the Southampton players, they got their cases packed to go on holiday, mate. Do you know what I mean? And so let's not pretend it was a high-level game. I think they got 12 points this season. Right, so
yeah, and since you're saying it, let me just say this: this game ended 2.3 to 0.6 on expected goals. We outshot them 23-7, so it was a bit of a pasting. But in the end, it was, you know, once again an example of an Arsenal team that had a pasting on paper that needed a late goal to make it a win. You know,
yeah, exactly. And so Zinchenko is somebody I think we underused slightly. Kieran Tierney wasn't meant to be here this season, but of course Scotland overused him in the summer, exploded his hamstring. We couldn't sell him last year. Thank you very much, Scotland. And so we have to carry him to the end of the season. And his professionalism. We love
our Scottish listeners, just so we're clear.
Well, they got him back and they played him on, I think it was a Saturday, Tuesday, and the second game just blew up. We know him. They know him, and that's what happened, right? So, but it's a tournament. They want to play, and he wants to play. I understand that totally. But it cost us any chance of a transfer. So we have to carry that player, and he walks out for free. We bought him injured. We have to pay £25 million in cash, one payment, right? Which doesn't really happen very often. But that's where we were at that time. We were desperate, and we wanted that player, right? So yeah, Zinchenko is somebody that I think is a really good player, but let's be honest, right? Could he have taken some minutes off of Odegaard when he was struggling? I think so. I really do. Mikel's view was let's play Martin through it, and he seems to be getting through it right now, right? So, but I think he's slightly underused. But let's be honest, we needed attackers, not left backs and midfielders. We needed attackers. That's where we were short, and we were playing a midfielder up front. So I don't think this is going to change our year. These are good players. James went to watch the training at the Emirates the other day, and he said watching Zinchenko in training was like amazing. He was just like the best player, and it just shows he's got real quality. And I hope he finds it. I think he's 28. I hope he finds a team that's got a role for him, because I think he's a really good football player. But Arsenal is not that team.
No,
it really isn't. So it's just time to move, right? Time to move.
Yep. Well, we get the goal from Tierney, which is great. But then in the second half, Southampton equalize. And Clive, maybe the biggest story of this season is just the number of leads we've chucked away. Now, when your back line is Zinchenko, Kivior, Tierney, Party, there's only so much you can ask defensively. We are missing Big Gabby for sure, and I have no doubt that our cratering set-piece defensive record is in part tied to the lack of his organization and his physical presence. But it is a bit of a worry. It's another set-piece goal conceded. It's another lead chucked away. Anything you want to comment on about that? I mean, for what it's worth, by the way, I thought Kivior was excellent in this game, and I thought everyone who had to play in the defensive unit did well. Again, against very poor opposition, it has to be said. But this is a theme from this season, throwing away leads and especially throwing them away due to set-piece goals.
Yeah, this game we were jogging a bit on occasions, and it happens last game, not much on it. The edge is not there. But, you think back to the best version of Arsenal, shall we say, when we're more robust at the back there, we would have a Kai Havertz playing most of these games, where his clearances numbers are excellent, right? So probably the peak Arsenal left back, you're not going to like it, Elliot, but probably someone like Kivior was that player when we had our 18-game run. Again, he's a centre-back left back. We had a centre-back right back. We had our midfielders, and we were taller and stronger in those areas. And so now at the weekend we've got Tierney, we've got Zinchenko, we've got players who are just not as physically able to protect their box. David Raya has not been quite as I'm going to take every cross centric. Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. He's become a little bit more line orientated. Again, that comes from just being not quite as sharp mentally. So obviously, Luke, it's not very often. I think I did see a tweet before the game. It's the first time, I don't know how long we didn't have Saliba or Gabriel to start a game. And so these are major pillars of our team. And that's why we've been a little bit more susceptible to set-piece goals. Though the header for this goal was incredible, right? How he scored that goal. So
yeah.
And so, these are things that we can fix. The players are here. Just get them off the hospital beds. The players are here. They're fit, ready to go. Then that will just disappear. I don't see it as something that's going to be here for a long time. We just need to get our physical balance correct and make sure our defensive leaders are fit and on the pitch, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, and I wanted us to win this game. I know it didn't matter, but I wanted us to win it. We did win it. And we won it in the way that just makes you shake your head, in a sense. Because I watched Donnarumma get down to save Martin Odegaard's shot in Paris. Yeah. That could have changed our life. And I've watched Martin Odegaard come in for, I will say, deserved criticism of his performances all season. But maybe he's just been coming back to himself and back to fitness. He cuts inside, beats a man, strikes the ball beautifully. It's a typical Aaron Ramsdale moment in the sense, by the way, because it's not a howler and not his mistake, but maybe there's a chance to get down quicker to it. I'm glad he didn't. It flies in. And it's the kind of goal we haven't been getting from Martin Odegaard. It was nice to see him score. It's great to get the win. Maybe just the right way for him to go out for his season on a high and refocus on being back to his best self next season. What do you think of that moment?
I think Odegaard's a really good technical shooter, Elliot. I've always felt that. And I think there's been 3 big shots, right? So remember the obviously PSG one, which was just incredible, right? The intent he showed on that shot. Then there was one against Liverpool where he takes it out of his feet, first touch. Again, his intent was not to create for others, but to get the shot off. Alisson, surprise, makes a save. Marino scores, right? A very important point in the scheme of things. And again, he's on the pitch for a few minutes and he gets that shot off. But if you watch his purpose, as he's running forwards on the first phase, stops, plays a 1-2, gets it back, beats a man, and he's thinking, I'm getting to the centre of the goal to shoot. So his mindset has changed, right? So you can see it in how he's travelling across the floor. You think, okay, I'm going to beat... And that's what we want from our number 10. He's a number 10. He's not here just to carry water around. We need 10 goals a season from that position, right? 10 goals, 10 assists. That's what we're looking for from that position. Otherwise, it's not working. Do you see what I mean? It's not working. And I thought the shot was incredibly good. I don't care about the goalkeeper. I thought it was incredibly good. Well, again, we had the same feeling of shock, you know? And so, yeah, he's obviously read the feedback and he started to make adjustments. And so he's probably thinking, I don't want this season to end. I'm just finding my feet, you know? So, but mate, get your legs up, you know, have some high fat food, right? And let's go from there and get in and let's get you back because when he plays well, we tend to do okay, don't we?
I have taken up the mantle of having some high-fat food on his behalf. I will let you know. There was an interesting quote pre-match. Mikel was talking about the most important thing for getting next season right. And he talked about, you know, you have to get the players in, you have to train right, but you have to avoid injuries, the referees, the schedule. He did say one thing. He said, and then the randomness of football, quote, I cannot control what happens in that dressing room to somebody in his personal life that can affect his performance. I don't know who he's talking about and what he's talking about. Obviously, everybody knows that Martin Odegaard had a baby. And right around the time he had a baby, he also came back from injury. I do wonder if Odegaard adjusting to a new moment in his life and the new realities of his life has been a part of this as well. But I really thought that was interesting that Mikel said, I cannot control what happens to someone in their life that can, in their personal life that can affect their performance. I just wonder if that might have been a part of it. No need to speculate further, but I thought that was interesting. We have a stat here to end this season that I think is one that if we repeat it next season, we're going to be very frustrated. It's an Opta stat. Arsenal have finished the league campaign without any player scoring 10 or more goals. Yeah. That's the first time this has happened since the 1923-24 season. But as everyone will remember, on the final day of that season, we had a chance to get 2 players into... No, I'm just kidding. Don't have any clue about what happened in that season. We'll have to ask Tim about that one. But, Clive, that obviously won't work. You can share goals around. You don't have to have a superstar main goal scorer. But someone's got to score more than 9. We need our best players to stay fit next season, but we do need to add an attack. And do you think it is maybe the upside, if you want to really go silver lining on this, knowing exactly what you need to add to achieve your goals creates a tremendous amount of clarity. It's not easy to buy attackers. And by the way, the hit rate on attackers is not particularly high. Clubs get it wrong all the time. Manchester United bought Antony, they bought Højlund, they bought Xerxes. These players stink. Well, not Antony. He's obviously a superstar the minute he leaves. Jadon Sancho, he's going back to them. They spent a lot of money on players. A lot of people, myself included, in the case of Sancho, for example, really rated and got it wrong every single time. Chelsea have gotten it wrong quite a lot. Pedro Neto, he is nit. Bringing in Sancho last summer, that didn't help, right? This is not easy, but is there at least silver lining in the sense that the clarity of what we need to bring in means that we can be very focused on that goal and how we get there, you know?
Yeah, I think where we're shopping right now, the names are obvious. But what is good about Arsenal is the environment these players are coming into. So the Manchester United environment is not a positive one for growth. Anthony signed for one manager. He's gone. And a new manager comes in that plays a completely different system. And his role has disappeared. Right? Just gone. Right? So and so he has to go and find a new club in another environment and he can't stop scoring and assisting. Right? So Højlund played for a team in Italy. I think it's Fiorentina, I think he was. Basically, they crossed the ball for the byline. He was a cross merchant, side foot cross merchant. Manchester United, they play back to front and get him to run channels. Didn't know what to do. He's a box player, basically. Can't do it. Now he can't even kick a ball straight. You know what I mean? He's struggling so much. And he's only young, right? We've got a 70 million quid price tag on his head. And he's struggling. I think Italy might take him back again. You know, and he'll probably be a superstar out there again in an environment that he's used to. The environment's really important. Really important. Jadon Sancho at Dortmund is not Jadon Sancho at Manchester United and at Chelsea. You know, it's really important. Fortunately, we've got a strong environment at Arsenal, so people that come in know what the score is, know what their role is, know how we play. Can you add something to that? You know, so I don't think it's hard. I don't think it's hard. I honestly don't. A lot of the names that have been mentioned, I think they'd all do quite well. Do the ones that are going to blend, mix together well, the balance of a number of names, and also do the ones that don't put you in a fiscal hole. So you can't allow you to adapt to other things and other challenges down the road. You know, don't do things where you're going to have a wage bill on somebody that you can't manage or that provokes animosity in the dressing room. Just do things that's right by your environment and trust the group collective. I don't think it's hard to find a left winger and a centre forward. I honestly don't think it is. I can think of 3 good left wingers that we could bring in and would do really, really well, and 3 or 4 centre forwards that we all know the names of that do really, really well. But it's about the whole environment, how they net and gel together, and how they accept roles. One week they start, one week they don't start. We have to have the ability to change games because we haven't had that this year. You know, we haven't had enough threat. We haven't had enough box efficiency. We haven't got enough box presence, and we haven't got enough presence full stop, you know, around those top end of the pitch to allow teams to adjust to us. All the players that I mentioned would add something to that and would allow our right winger, somebody who has all of those things, to not have 5 people in front of him every time he gets the ball because we're killing him while we're doing that.
Yeah. Well, it's easy and hard. We know what we need. There's no guarantees. Because let me tell you something. If you like Benjamin Sesko could change our worlds. He could flop. I want to be clear about that. There is absolutely no guarantee Benjamin Sesko is the right level for what we need. You like Victor Gyökeres? Absolute possibility could come in and you could see, oh, actually, he bullied a weaker league, but some of the things that allowed him to be so successful there don't allow him to be successful here. I'm not saying that's going to happen, by the way, but I'm saying everybody comes to me and they're like, who's the right guy? Who's the right guy? And I'm telling you, the thing that makes it so hard and why it is hard for the guys who have to make the decisions too, by the way, is I don't know that there's someone I could point to and say, that's the guy. That's the one. All right, Alexander Isak. He's got some injury concerns, but sure, he's the guy. He's not moving. And PGMOL may have played a role in that, by the way. But Clive, I think that is the final point, is just that me personally, I don't see a player out there that's going to move to Arsenal where that player would come in with no question marks in my mind about whether they're the right guy to change us. And if you told me that the majority of next season our front 3 was Martinelli, Kai, and Saka, I would not find that surprising, even if we make a signing. So it's going to be tough. Even if we act decisively, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I think the left winger is the one that I think could be a real razor.
Yeah.
I think the centre forward is the one that plays there, but we've also got a centre forward, you know, and so you mentioned Sesko. Let's just talk about that for a second, shall we? Right? You said he could be a flop. This is where I slightly disagree. I think while he's flopping, Elliot, do you know what he can do? He can jump out of his boots and head the ball in the net, and he can kick the ball both feet. So what are we talking about here? We talk about, most of the time we've got teams pushed back. So it's what you're doing, the last thing, the last action, the last piece. So while he's settling in, I don't think he's flopping. And I think other people have to mark him. They have to make provisions for his ability. So he, straight away, day one for me, brings something that we could use. And I just don't see a flop there. Gyökeres I find more challenging. although his ball striking and ability around the box is really, really good. But stylistically, he seems to be part of a different game. You know, doesn't mean he can't adjust to our game. The people say, yeah, we want the win now guy. Well, the win now guy could have probably cost more in wages and more in agents' fees. And by the way, his style of play is further away from Sesko, which is further away from Arsenal. So the win now guy on pure age alone could actually be a harder player to assimilate into the league. Could be harder. You look at someone like Ollie Watkins now. Now, that's somebody that does the league really, really well. Aston Villa got PSR problems. Seiko 35, 40 million for Ollie Watkins, 29, 30-year-old. Lewandowski, 35, still scoring goals. I look at him, I look at his movement, I look at his ability of running behind, I look at what he does around the pitch. Done. Easy work if you want to do it. If you want to do it, it's easy, right? You just got to make that decision. Left wing could be slightly harder, and I think you have to really make a decision there, and that might cost, because those sort of sprinters, they cost, but again, the way Arsenal play into wide men, they're going to get a lot of the ball. They're going to get fed a lot of the ball. They're going to get a lot of combinations. They're going to have Declan Rice near them. They're going to have players of quality around them, and a centre forward that potentially runs in behind. It's not going to be hard. You need more attackers to allow you more attacking options. That's the key. At the moment, we are so one-dimensional because we haven't got enough attackers to add dimensions to our game. It's not a critique. It's where we are. It's incredible we finished second, I'll tell you now. Given the lack of what we have and our underlying numbers being worse than they have been last year, it's incredible. But that's on us. And we have to fix that now. We can't carry that again into next season. That's just not, we'd be dumb if we do that. So I'm generally not worried about it. I just want to make sure that these players understand the environment they come into, they fit the environment. Because another criticism of Raheem Sterling, although potentially does a lot of good work off the pitch with our younger players, sometimes when I watch him play, Elliot, he's off script. He's just going where he likes. Because he's trying to make an impression for himself. Because he's fighting for his game. We don't have players running around off script doing what they like and leaving holes. That's not who we are. So for people coming in, they've got to understand the environment they're in. They've got to be coachable. They've got to understand the standards that we work to, the principles that we work to, and want to improve their game. And Declan Rice is a great example of that. He's come in, he's developed his game massively, and his game has gone on so much, right? So that's the key for me. I don't think it's difficult. I really don't. Just make your decision, and then let's add to this group.
Yeah, what I don't want to see next season is games that we've dominated but haven't won because we couldn't turn dominance into the goals that make games safe. Your point about playing 70-minute games instead of 90-minute games, where it should be 3-0, but it's 1-1 or 0-0. We can't next season be trying to explain the regrets we have that the half chances didn't fly in for us. We need to create more XG. Like, this is the thing. We do well with the chances we get. What people say, we need to be better finishers. We need to be better finishers. And I understand that argument. Believe me, I do. Because in really high leverage moments in big games, in the FA Cup this season, in the League Cup this season, in the Champions League this season, we had chances to win against Newcastle, against United, certainly, but even against PSG. And the chances didn't go in. So I understand that. But statistically, you will see we are one of the biggest XG overperformers in the league over the last 3 seasons. We tend to do all right. The bigger problem, we don't create enough of the XG. We don't create enough good, clear chances. And what happens when you don't create enough good, clear chances, you know what happens? You remember everyone you miss.
Yeah, you do.
That's exactly it, Clive. You remember the ones you miss. If you create 2 chances a game and you miss them, you're going to go, we had those 2 chances. But it's not the job to have 2 chances. It's the job to have so many that eventually they fly in. Because, you know what? It's nice on the day when you have 4 XG, or 2 XG, but you beat PSV 7-1. But they're not always going to be that way. It's nice when 2 Declan Rice free kicks fly in the top corner. But you need more of the days where you have the clear-cut chances, Clive.
Yeah, losses stay with you, don't they? I think...
Yep.
Was it for against PSG? I think correct me if I'm wrong, which I'm more likely going to be wrong. I think we created north of 5 XG over the 2 games. I may be wrong, but we scored 1 goal, right? So in the 3 games,
2.8 and 1.7. What is that up to? 3 plus 1.5, 4.5 XG to 2.9. Mm-hmm.
And we scored 1 goal, right? So Newcastle, we paid them 3 or 4 times this season, and I think we created like 9 XG
Mm.
in those games and scored 1 goal.
Yeah.
Right? So I remember that. And even if my numbers are wrong, someone's going to tell me. But it was that sort of disparity. Right? I remember that because we lost the games. We lost the games. I struggle a little bit, Elliot, on the word creation. And some people are listening to us now thinking, but what about our creativity? And again, that word creativity, discussion maybe for one of our summer podcasts. What does that mean, right? We were far more creative when Saka and Odegaard were sprinting behind and doing 1-2s. We looked pretty creative then, and Saka post-injury, he's not running in behind as much. He wants the ball to feet, so we're not creating enough stress on that back line. So we don't quite look as though we're creatively making chances. I think we've lost a little bit of that, With Marino there, he forces a certain style of creation, to get it to him in certain parts of the pitch. Most of that's going to be in the air. So he forces a different style of creation because he's not going to run through lines and running behind people. And so we have lost a bit of fluidity there. It's going to be so interesting to see what we do. I heard something this weekend. I'm going to upset you now, Elliot. Because someone said to me about left wingers, said, just don't bother about it, Clive. Just get Eze in. I was like, let's have this conversation. And then I heard that Bayern Munich are looking at Eze. And I thought, damn, that makes a lot of sense. Some of their left-sided players are getting a bit aged. They got his mate there already, killing it on the right-hand side.
Can we take Musiala off them?
Yeah, and I thought, I'm not sure he's a tactical fit to be the widest player out in that system. But I thought, crikey. So sometimes things are so obvious, they're right in front of you. So maybe I should sort of take Mickey out of you with Eze, say, it's going to cost too much, it's £68 million release clause. But sometimes it's just staring you in the face. In the Premier League, do we do something different on the left-hand side, having more creative player there? But then you have a centre forward that runs in behind. It's all about the combination and the balance. It really is. It really is. Not just about this player, that player. What's the combinations you can play? What's the balance you have? Physicality, running in behind, technical ability, and ball carrying. These are things that really matter in the front end of the pitch. And shooting.
I cannot emphasize this strongly enough. We missed chances that could have made our season a dream come true. But over the course of a season, for the 3rd season in a row, we have overperformed XG as much as basically anybody in the league. So when we get chances, we overall do pretty well with them, but we do not get enough of them.
Yeah.
And we need more, especially for a team that is always top or just about top in touches in the penalty box, attacking third percentage, all that stuff. High turnovers, more shots, more chances. Has to happen.
Yeah.
And whether you do that by adding to the tip of the spear or the thing that's right behind the tip of the spear or the width of the spear, whatever you want to call it, everybody knows we have to power up the attack. And everybody knew we did. We didn't. We cannot afford not to do it again. I think we leave it there. We're going to hit the scouting videos again here pretty soon. We're going to do a season review like we always do, where we say, predictions, what we got wrong, what we got right. We're going to go player by player. I love, Clive, your idea where instead of giving them a rating, we say, was it a step forward, step back, or step sideways for them? So we can kind of just evaluate where they are in their process. We'll look ahead to next season. We have some really cool season wrap-up stuff we'll do before we go fully into transfers and looking ahead in the Transfer Daily, which will come at some point in June. So plenty of good stuff to come, and we'd love to have you along for the ride. So please join us either here or there or both. But whatever makes you happy. We're just thrilled to have you along for the ride. Clive, as always, it has been the joy of a lifetime to share a season with you and Tim and Paul and Clive, and you are Clive, and
I'm
Scott
Clive.
and Phil. And Paul was going to join this pod, but actually he seems to have hurt his back, so best wishes to Paul. Tim is currently at the Emirates watching a trophy get raised, an actual trophy. So let's once again congratulate Arsenal Football Club on being champions of Europe for the women. Unbelievable accomplishment. And Clive, I look forward to the real football conversation, transfers for the rest of the summer.
Favourite time of year when the football stops and Tim will not be at the Emirates any longer. He will be in a pub celebrating his birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Tim. And I'm going to go to a park and watch my daughters go swinging, which is fine. That'll be fun too. Maybe I'll get a cheeky drink when I come home. We'll see. All right, Clive, talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
My name's Elliot Smith. We love you. And for the first time of many, I will tell you, we will talk to you after Arsenal 10, transfer window nil.